Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beta Talks. And today I have my almost type twin, Karin. Hi,
Hey,
welcome. So good to have you finally.
you too. Finally talk to you face to face.
Exactly. So you were actually the first person that reached out to me after I had been typed and
I
sort of,
didn't know that.
yeah, was really special. So now you know. Um, yeah, so let's just start with your type, and then I'll share more about that. You wanna
Okay,
say your
so
type?
sure. So type is double feminine, NIFE, just like you. Blast, sleep, but consume, play. So
Yeah,
my last animal is different than your last animal.
exactly. So we are basically just two coins off with the info versus energy and the masculine versus feminine sensory,
Mm,
and that's it. Pretty close.
yeah.
Yeah, so first impressions, let's do it the Reggie way. I can go first. I was so happy when you reached out to me. I was like, wow, someone sees me first of all and is excited about my type.
Mhm.
And maybe as you recall, I was still processing, so I wasn't, convinced about my type at that point yet, but I really felt the welcoming and the warmth from you. So that FE was shining through strongly. And
Mm.
yeah, here we are 1.5 years later. So that was a good
Hard
start.
to believe it's been that long. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you remember? You saw me on the Austin interview, right? In his typing group.
Well, in your typing video, so I was first introduced to you in that one directional way. And yeah, you were so interesting to me. You were very difficult to type. I remember that. I remember wavering a lot, and my guess is for you. And I think I had landed on NETE for you, and you were typing yourself as an ENFP at that time, if I
Yeah.
recall correctly, right? And but I remember hearing some stuff that I'm like, that sounds a little bit like me in particular because you had already been through the typing process. Your situation was unique. You had already been through the typing process, but because you held your type back from you didn't share it.
Yeah.
But because you were unsure about how Dave and Shan landed on type for you, you were interested to actually get other people to type you to see what they saw. Am I remembering that correctly? That was my
Completely
interpretation.
correctly. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it was so interesting because the whole thing was very strategic. And I remember thinking that seems like some things I was doing around my typing video or like my typing process as well. It's just like the strategic because the thing is, it's that wanting to gather clean data. That's the way I interpret it. Wanting to gather clean data. And so if you taint the data you get back with your own interpretations or in any way saying this is what I'm thinking, then or this sorry, this is what this happens a lot. Once we all know how Dave and Shanna type someone, then it's hard to see it another way. And so once the official type comes in, then you would get a lot of guesses coming back that are in line with the official type. And so that's the way I interpret it. After I understood oh yeah, she was typed in. I no wonder why I was feeling like that was familiar to me of the like, how can I get clean data back and then measure that?
Yeah. That's exactly what it was about. Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting that you saw that and related to that.
Mhm.
Because in terms of being an IJ, as I am, and at this point I'm very convinced of my type, but I think I didn't see myself as very organized. So that was one of the big, question marks in my head. Like I knew that I had to be intuitive because of the huge void in the sensory. But I couldn't see the organized part. And in my case, it's feminine OI. So I wanted to start off by talking a little bit more about that. Like, do you, with masculine Ni, have you always known that you are like an organizer in some sense, or did you see yourself as chaotic at any point? Like, yeah, how are you thinking about that coin?
So I guess a way to go through this is to talk about how I would answer questions on MBTI tests to get the particular types back. Almost always it was a J type. So I was seeing myself as the OIDE coin. And then only every once in a while would it come out with a P type. So yeah, I think that was pretty clear to me. Although you look at my home life, and this is where confusion can come in with what blast is, because NIFE blast is not SITE blast. And so yeah, if someone walks through my home, they're like, she's so chaotic. What is happening here? And so they would not see the organized in my home. It depends on the season. Some seasons I'm much more organized in my home. This is not one of those seasons. So yeah, but the organized is a lot more, I think of it as a lot more of a mental type of organized.
Exactly.
It's happening in here. That's where I'm responsible, is to put in order
Yes.
all the information I have coming in, and it has to be in order in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the sensory organizing, but it's the conceptual, that's where we are organizing. Yeah, go on, please.
Well, I was curious to hear, I mean, how is that for you? Is what I'm describing similar?
Very
I mean,
similar.
I'm looking at your home. I'm seeing some organized, but maybe this is just this little snapshot and the rest of it is just complete.
Yeah, I'm not going to turn around the camera.
Me either.
Good. We're on the same page here. How do I organize? It's so interesting compared to my mom, who I can see has SI in her stack somewhere, because she's organized in a very different and very concrete way. Because if I ask her where an item is, she actually knows where it is. And I'm like, wow, that's impressive. And she's like, yeah, you have to know where you have your things. They have to have their specific place. It's like every item they have their own homes, so there is a place for everyone in the tribe, in the things tribe. Yeah, and she told me that, yeah, you can even write down where you have your things. I'm like, interesting. That's not what I do. I buy like these huge baskets or, beautiful boxes, and then I just shove things there. Yes. And I know, like, by categories. So I will know that, things that I'm going to organize or, go through later, what to save and what to not, blah, 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 is in one box, and then important stuff is in another box, so it's some sort of organization. But I will never find like the exact thing exactly when I need it. I will have to basically empty the whole basket, somewhere, and just go through the things and see where is it. And it's always, a little bit panicky, because usually it's last minute, because sensory is not a priority. So yeah, I don't know if you can relate. I heard you laughing.
No, I do. Categorical organizing. When the organizing is happening in the physical world, it's categorical. Yes, it completely relates.
Yes. So, and I think in my case, also having, even if it's last, but my masculine OE, SE then is, yeah, I think somehow it seems like we see our masculine functions easier, more clearly, even as demons. So it makes sense now. Like, yes, I am an intuitive, and yeah, I guess I'm not like a double, triple activated chaos monkey as I thought I was, because that's how I feel on the inside. But I need to look, on the spectrum. Yeah, sure. Compared to masculine SI leads, I'm very chaotic. But yeah, I'm still intuitive, and I'm more organized than other intuitives. So yeah, I guess. it makes sense putting together that masculine demon function and that OI at the top.
So with people who know you in real life, do you get more feedback that would say you are chaotic, or do you get more feedback that says you are controlling?
Okay, so I'm gonna give away one of my weak points here. I'm often late. So that's one part of me that is very chaotic. And this is horrible. Okay, this is confession time, because the thing is, I do track time because I have masculine sensory. So it's not that I'm not tracking it. It's just that it's not important, which is kind of disrespectful, in a sense. But then I have FE. So if people are involved and I know people's values, and this is maybe where it becomes a little bit not very positive, I guess, but I know where people are at, and I know who is also late, and I know who gets really angry if someone is late, and I know who has something really important, or if someone already was feeling, some tension in their life, very stressed, and I know that this one can't take it right now. So all of that is going on, in the back of my head as well. And yeah, as a double decider, people are movable. So usually I can, just move it a little bit, a few minutes. I'm not like chaotic, like I'm an hour late or something, but usually move things around a little bit, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, sometimes half an hour. I usually tell my friends that if we have an appointment that, okay, so if it's 6 for everyone else, don't let me know. Tell me 5:30, please. So then I will be first, on time, and everyone is happy. So yeah, I'm kind of trying to trick myself and just, be open about it as well. And then of course, I mean, I have to, like, when it comes to work, I have to be on time. But I feel, as an intuitive, I don't know if you can relate, but I feel like I only have so many, in a week, I only have so many times that I can be on time. Then it's kind of, I've used it already. I think maybe like a blast blaster, they only have so many minutes they can blast, or so many hours, and then they run out of blast. And that's how I feel about the sensory, that I can only do so much, and then it's kind of over for that week. Now I need to tap into my intuition again. So I have to use that wisely. So I kind of am planning that, because I know that there I have to put more focus, like put 5 alarms, with really annoying sounds or something. So I just can't forget about it, or or just have a different mindset about certain appointments. And it's not that I don't care about all the rest of them, but it feels like it's, yeah, almost like I don't have the capacity to the full. It's not easy. It's really hard, So when I can use my saviors to change things a little bit, I will. Yeah. So that's my confession. What's yours?
Well, I mean, I do have an issue with being late as well. And I relate to what you're saying with how other people, where their values are on that, if it's knowing who's going to be upset by that, or reading where they are in life, these sorts of things.
Yeah.
That does factor into the motivation to be on time. I think it's interesting what you're saying, is I only have so much I can do that. To me, I would actually say I don't feel as though there's a finite number of times I can do that. Rather, it's more how much margin do I have in life? And there are some times where I have a lot more control over the amount of margin I have in life, and other times where I don't. I mean, I don't, because of responsibilities I put in place years ago, like having children, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's where I would say it has more to do with just how much margin do I have. When I have plenty of margin, then I actually tend to show up on time too. My things are generally on time. But yeah, otherwise, it's so interesting how the less margin I have in life, the more I feel like I'm so needy for sleep processing that I will actually, when I'm in the hurry to have to get a lot done, is when my mind is telling me now's a good time to sleep process something.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I do that too.
So then I'm going even more slowly to, like, get everything together and that sort of thing to get out the door.
How do you like go about it? What happens? Like, what would an outsider see if they came into your home at that point?
Oh, what would an outsider see? Well, they might see, I mean, this was a big issue. I noticed myself doing this a lot a few years ago, where the more I was feeling overwhelmed, the more I was just finding myself, and this isn't necessarily sleep processing, but the more I was finding myself just on my phone. I think I was just looking for some sort of respite from the chaos that was going on outside of me, and something that I felt was feeding me, even if it was like junk food versus something nutritious. It just felt like it was something that was feeding me, as so much of my life was oriented around feeding others. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because you chose what you wanted to look at.
Yeah,
And
I'm choosing. Yeah, and in a sense, I think that actually fits more in the consume category. But that's where that hole for me of the sleep consume there in the middle, those two animals it's such a black hole for me.
yeah,
The
it must
more
be.
overwhelmed I feel, the more I will just feel like I just want to escape into that black hole.
This is so interesting because this is where I think we have like a different pace, maybe inner pace, like how we experience life. Because for me, having them like every second animal is extroverted, every second one is introverted. It's like a push and pull. Like I start and then I hit the brakes and then I move. I continue moving, and then I have to hit the brakes again.
Sorry
So
about that.
no problems. And go and tend to that if you need to.
I'll let my husband deal with it, but like, I'm sorry, that's probably very distracting to you.
No worries at all.
So
Yeah,
again, the breaks and then the going, just like happened.
yeah. So I'm just thinking about your black hole there, because you get going and then you kind of disappear in a black hole. How does that, I mean, again, how do you experience it, and what does it look like from the outside? Like, what feedback have you received from your tribe when it comes to that black hole thing?
Yeah. Well, so I will feel this hold of I must go there the more I'm feeling overwhelmed in the outside world, which is the very time where it impacts other people negatively more. So other seasons of life, well, I'll give you an example. I got to have some time with my girlfriend. We went to a cabin in the mountains. It was just the two of us, 3-4 days, something like that. And I have suspected for a long time that my body rhythm goes.
It's okay, go on.
Can you hear me?
I
As long
hear
as you
you.
can.
I hear you
Okay.
fine. Yes, it's kind of funny. It's the little one on the FETI axis, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Here's a cross fingers that that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Okay.
He's a sweetheart. He's a real sweetheart. But yeah, again, like we were talking about before we started recording, he's going through that very, very important stage of asserting his independence, that he's separate from us. And I'm so glad. I'm delighted to see him doing that, because he'll be a more healthy adult when he goes.
Yes.
So anyway, keeping that in mind. Oh my gosh.
It's wonderful.
Why do you hear me? So, oh yeah.
You and your friend, yeah.
Yes, for a long time I've suspected my body rhythm goes at a particular well, it is a particular I'm trying to even think now of the word I meant to use. But anyway, my life has never been designed to where I could go with my natural body rhythm the way that I'm invested each time of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was out there with her, it was wonderful because I got to experience where I think I'm at my best with my body rhythm. And so the where I would wake up and we would have a quick exchange of hello. So there was just a little bit of interaction. And then she was off to do her work and I was off to sit by the fire in my nice, happy little sleep consume cocoon for many hours. And that's the way my day would start, just alone with whatever, my books, my journal. And then once she was done with her work, she was ready to have the interaction with me and go do something. I found I had a lot of energy for that. And so I was up for the hikes and the snowshoeing and the, that kind of thing. I actually had energy, which in my normal life, like I've spent so many years having very little energy for like anything like that, the idea of doing something like that would just exhaust me. So I found like I was happy to do the talking at that point of day. It did not feel like a chore. It was delightful. And I was happy to get out and do this exercise. That was delightful. But in my regular life, because that blast is first, I have to start my day. Well, as soon as the kids are up, I'm in blast mode. And then I've exhausted myself to where they're off to school. And then I'm crashing at that point.
Yeah.
So, and it's usually I'm crashing with the playlist, especially I'm crashing before the work is done or before the pulls on me are finished. And part of that is my work of learning where to have boundaries and where to do the taking care of myself in the middle, which I would guess you're probably more skilled at that than I am naturally because of being the energy dom of the taking care of yourself in the middle of the tribe concerns.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we do that.
You.
It's so interesting to hear it from your side. And it feels like, what you did then, as you said, you tapped into your rhythm, like your natural preferred rhythm. And that's essentially how you are designed to live, I would say. But then that doesn't really work in real life with kids and whatnot. So I can really see how you would crash after sending everyone off to their days, to their schools and what they have. And I'm just curious to know before I answer, so when you crash, do you go back to bed and sleep for a bit, or what does it look like for an outsider? If you don't mind answering, you don't have to. If it's too personal.
Yeah, no, it's not too personal. Well, there have been times in my life where like my depression was heavier, and that would more likely result in me actually needing to sleep at that point. Well, and that also goes along with a couple years ago, I started working to be responsible with my sleep habits. But before that, I was not responsible with getting good sleep because as soon as everyone was to bed at nighttime, that was when I felt this openness of, oh, okay, I have openness to do as I want to do now. And I don't have an internal clock saying you need to go to bed now. So
Yes.
I would be up until sometimes 3 a.m. and need to get up to start getting the kids going at 6:30. And so that, of course, by the time I do the whole routine of getting them out the door, I'm just exhausted and I'm wanting to go back to sleep at that point. And sometimes life allowed me to, and sometimes not. But that's developing more healthy sleep habits and improving my nutrition. Now, I might feel kind of drained on the people sense once I get them out the door, but I don't have that same kind of crash. Like I need to spend this entire time while they're away at school recovering from what just happened and preparing for what's about to happen when it comes back home.
Yeah, so I can see how that becomes like a circle, you're repeating the same every day then, because finally you have your own time and then again the crash next morning.
Yeah. So it was hard for me to to take away that evening time, because that was nourishing to me, to have that open space and no one's asking anything of me right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was like, if I'm going to grow to be more responsible and a more balanced person, I need to take out that evening time. And so I give myself, usually it's about an hour in the morning where I'm waking up before I'm getting everyone else. So there is some quiet time there, not nearly as much as I would like, but that at least gives me a much better start to the day. And I'm in a better place welcoming everybody in the morning rather than just like irritated by everything that's happening. So even they're just getting a better send off to their days by having me in a better place, because I've had sleep and then I've had a little quiet time to myself before they were up.
Yeah.
So.
Because otherwise it's like demon time right away. If you just are, if the sensory hits you the first thing in the morning.
Yes.
And like that, you get ahead of it a bit when you have that 1 hour of you doing your saviors and just doing your thing and what you need, and then you're ready for those last functions. Yeah, I can see that. So in terms of how do I do it as an energy dom, we have been joking a bit about it in the community, like how we are, Dave and Shan as well, mixing work and play, like just kind of being cozy and relaxing and working at the same time. And what that looks like in the sensory, for me, it's like I have my computer. I also have the TV with a show maybe or something. I have recently learned to tap into consume more. And sometimes I use the consume as more a tool for sleep processing. So it's a show that I'm familiar with, nothing entirely new, crazy chaos, but like a show where I know the characters, it's familiar. And I like the main idea of it, and it's kind of calming to my soul. And then maybe the first 10-15 minutes, I'm really into, what's going on there on the screen. So this is how I might start a day. Like maybe I'll go out for a walk first, but then when I get started, with my day, I will kind of watch that 10 or 15 minutes. Then I go to my computer and I start doing things that I need to do, and then I kind of do both. I watch a little bit. Oh, I rewind a bit. I go back and, oh, I missed that part. And then I forget to stop it and I go back to the computer. It sounds very chaotic. No wonder I thought I was an OE. It was my energy dom thing playing out. Yeah. So, going back and forth between obligation and fun and relaxation and kind of sleep processing my own life. And suddenly I get an idea for the work thing, taken from my own sleep processing. So it's, for me, it's all integrated. It's not like work or play. It's work and play at the same time, always. That's how it works. And I don't think it's a burden. I mean, even on a Sunday, if I'm free the entire day, more or less, I enjoy doing like interviews for my channel and preparing a little bit for work, going out for a walk or something, watching something, talking to a friend. I think that's my lifestyle, like essentially, like doing it all at once, just mixing things. Yeah, I think that's the
I respect that a lot. I do respect that in the energy doms, is that when I'm able to watch how they move their world, and I'm learning to do this myself, to do little bits here and there, because my natural mode is, I like to compete with myself against the clock. That's my best way to do it. I don't do this very well when children are present because I'm frustrated that like my competition is being thwarted by having to address something. So I'm more likely to do this when they're out of the house. where I'll set a timer and I'll give myself a task where I need to get this task done in that amount of time. And I'm just kind of competing with myself. But then usually I've packed a lot into a little bit of time and I'm very tired afterwards. So it might be hours before I feel ready to do anything else
Yeah.
productive.
So,
And
yeah.
so I'm learning how to do the little bits, like actually, yeah. So where the intervals between play and work are smaller, shorter.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because essentially, I think you as an infodom and me as an energy dom, we are getting the same amount of stuff done. Well, you are a parent,
I would
so
guess you're getting more done than me, but we'll see.
I was just thinking the opposite, being a mom of 4.
Oh, that's true.
Can't
Most of
compete.
I don't give myself credit to even count that I'm working, but yes, you're exactly right.
That's so much overtime, like a lifetime of overtime. So yeah, I can't compare myself with you. But other than that, like just comparing the info domness with the energy domness, I think like overall we are doing the same amount of work, but it's just spread out differently.
Mhm.
So while you are relaxing after being super efficient, I'm kind of very inefficient, but when you are done relaxing, I'm done doing my stuff as well, so yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm clear enough. NF plus demon English combined.
That makes me curious about because all of this is related to body awareness in my mind. And
Mhm.
this is one of the things I was interested to do some compare and contrast between us
Yes.
of where you are with body awareness. And because that is, I could even say it is my biggest blind spot in life. And it permeates through all different areas of life. But that
Mhm.
has been I think my biggest blind spot. So I'm wondering, because you have the masculine sensory and
Mhm.
also the energy dom, if the struggles are the same, maybe you even have bigger struggles in some areas than I do, or if you feel like you have more of a handle on body awareness
Mm.
and responsibility for body, really.
Mm. Okay, this is interesting. So I think I'll make a general point first, and then so I'm planning how we're going about this, and then you can share how you see it. And I think in comparison to you, then I will be able to contrast myself. So the
Okay.
general point would be that just, having SE last naturally makes you body unaware. Like,
Yeah.
what is this? A physical body? Do I have to take care of it? And do I have to feed myself? Remember to drink water, all of that,
Mhm.
sleep and so forth. It's nothing natural, I think, for someone who is sensory last.
Right.
Um, just, yeah, I don't know, random thing, but I remember one of the books that I was most fascinated by at age 12 was about two brains communicating with each other, disembodied, just in their own, kind of aquarium or something similar,
Mhm.
and talking without, sound or words or anything, but just connecting. And this is a story like these brains connecting with each other is like something that is something I'm going back to in my mind, like every now and then, because it made such a strong impression on me, this book. I think I somehow just felt so understood in a way. Like
Mhm.
I think that's how I see myself. I'm very separate from the body. Like I'm a mind and I meet other minds. And in terms of, remembering details about other people, like what they wore or what they looked like, if they had long hair or short hair, or even what I looked like myself, these things are kind of just not recorded. I don't really pay attention to them, and I cannot really recall them after, unless I make like a conscious effort to like register something.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just in my own, in a conversation with someone, like in my OI somehow, thinking about something conceptual, those sensory things aren't really naturally there. So yeah, in terms of body awareness, I think that's something we discover later in life, like maybe after 30 is like when we slowly are tapping into that awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. So how about you?
Well, a couple things off of what you said that I think are interesting. Some differences is
Mm,
that registering what someone looks like or what they were wearing, those types of things, I think they lodge in my mind more easily, and that could be due to the masculine intuition of the visualizing.
yes, I
Or
think
even
so.
I'm a lot more likely to remember what I was wearing at important moments
Mm.
of my life. And
Yeah,
so,
like feminine sensory enables that, I think, for you. Like it's more visual.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and even so I was even thinking, because you were saying that remembering what you looked like, do you think that could have anything to do with the consume less too? Because I've heard that theme a number of times with consume less. Like even in the moment, you consume less may not have a good register
Mm.
on how they're
Yeah.
looking at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's such a fascinating piece to me to have learned about consume less. Um, okay, so yeah, that's interesting hearing your guesses that around or after 30. That makes sense to me. That after 30 is when that awareness starts to come on board. And for me, it's been close to 40. I mean, I started, well, there are little bits and pieces here. A couple years ago, I started taking responsibility for the sleep,
Mm.
and but all hovering around 40 was when I started to take responsibility for these areas. And so it's internal, things that are all internal, and then things that are external as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, being disconnected from what's happening in my body is a regular aspect of me. And I think that's even what's contributing to things like not having a regulator that tells me now is time to go to sleep. So
Mm.
I have to base it based off of, when other people around me are going to sleep. And if I don't go to sleep in that same time, then I won't be going to sleep at all.
Yeah,
Um,
I can relate to that too. Yeah, go on.
mhm. Yeah, so there's that. And then there's so much because it's unconscious, that part of me is unconscious, that, the body is speaking to us all the time, feeding us information.
Mm.
And yet my natural inclination is just to ignore, ignore,
Mm.
ignore. And so a lot of my work this past year, I've like my therapist, the main modality she works with is somatic EMDR. So
Mm.
that's a lot of it's not a whole lot of talking that happens in our sessions together. There's it's where we're tuning into what is happening in my body, and there's a lot of work that happens non-verbally in the process. And with the EMDRs is where there's, the brain is making connections for me, even if I'm not verbally talking out what's happening.
Mm.
I'll be describing to her different things I'm sensing in my body. But she was even remarking to me recently that the she was helping me see some differences from when I started meeting her with her a bit over a year ago, how like what I was capable of doing back then versus what I'm capable of doing now. And
Mm.
that oftentimes at the beginning, I would register a sensation and I couldn't stay with it very long before I'm back in my mind trying to, because that's the place I go to try to figure it out. I'm trying to
Mm.
figure out the problem.
Mm.
And so she was just remarking that that's a difference she's seeing in me and my capacity to sit there and stay with the sensations, and how infrequently these days it happens where she's seeing me go into my mind to either, create the story or describe the story.
Mm. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Just for clarity, so EMDR, something with eye movements, something. What is
Yeah,
it?
the last two letters, I always get it wrong what it is, but you'll see it done differently. You'll see people, some do it with, the fingers. If you've
Yeah.
seen that, that's the eye
Mhm.
movement, actual eye movement.
Yeah.
There are other ways to do it. So she has, if you don't have the little sensors, like you can
Mm.
have little sensors on your wrists or put them elsewhere on your body where they're giving you a little zap essentially.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, then you can do the alternating tapping like this.
Mm.
And as my understanding, I mean, someone who's watching this who knows a lot more about it may correct this, but my understanding is it's getting the right and left hemispheres to communicate with each other, and it's
Ah.
helping the brain. It's helping bridge those hemispheres, because I think where we get stuck is when we are not, our brain is not able to communicate with each other to
Mm.
resolve whatever issue we're having. And so anyway, so she does that while there's a tuning in. So there's something that's happening less consciously there with the EMDR, and then there's the more conscious staying aware of what the sensations are in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And and it takes a lot of concentration, that my ability to concentrate on it has grown, but it's not it started out small. And even more recently, I started working with an embodiment coach, and that's another aspect of
Wow.
I'm working on it. So it's been a huge part of my life right now to learn to tend to my nervous system, because as it is, um, as I'm coming to learn, my responsibility years ago was to go to healing, um, seeking healing in a mental way and in an emotional way, and to understand what that meant for other people to be struggling mentally and
Mm.
emotionally. And but the very primal piece of our nervous system makes such a difference, in that we can have this understanding, all these tools that at our disposal, that we've studied and learned how things work. And then our nervous system just will hijack all of that, and we're unable to use the tools that we've been learning. And
Mm.
so if we're not doing that work on tending to the nervous system, to the where when we're getting outside of our window of tolerance and we're going into hyper arousal or hypo arousal, going up or down,
Yeah.
then we we're not able to actually stay present to use those tools that we have to really be present in a conversation with someone, especially if it's getting heated
Heated.
or
Mm-hmm.
tense,
Yeah.
to continue to be curious rather than defensive. That all happens within the window of tolerance. So
Mm.
the idea of, well, the idea for me, my purpose in working to train my nervous system, or to tend to it, is to expand my window of tolerance, to be able to stay present, stay in the present moment
Mm.
without fear of the fight or flight, freeze or fawn fears that come up, be able to stay there and stay curious and open and connected.
Wow, that's so interesting. And just the embodiment coach thing, what does that mean?
Oh, she uses all sorts of uh, different tools in embodiment, but there's a part of what she'll do in an embodiment work. In our sessions, there's always a piece of, have you ever heard of the term drop in? That's a term that you might come across in this sort of work, doing a drop in.
Huh.
It's
Not
it's another
sure.
way of like going internal, tuning
Okay.
into different sensations that are happening in your body, giving awareness to different parts of the body. So
Mm-hmm.
there will always be a portion of that. The sessions with her usually start with a drop in and then end with some sort of embodiment exercise as well. So there's that, but then in between there's I'm pretty sure she's an infodom, so she just has all these different tools she's been gathering that she'll just pull out depending on whatever is coming up in the sessions. And so,
Yeah.
but really the idea is just becoming responsible for what's happening with the body, and it's really fascinating to me because some people come into the world with that natural responsibility. Where they're struggling is the, going to make the connections in the mind and that sort of thing. That's why it's just fascinating to me to hear where everyone is.
It's so interesting. Yeah, because I mean, naturally, it's all connected. And yeah, we need to find a way as intuitives to connect ourselves to our body, our minds to our body, because everyone needs that to be whole. So that's an interesting method. I'm not very familiar with it, so I'm just listening and taking in, and I will rewatch this after and just process it for a while.
Well, if you ever want to know more about it, I can pass on the tools I've come across. So
sure, yeah, please do. Yeah, I'm just thinking of, like, in terms of feminine versus masculine sensory and body awareness, they often talk about SE as jumping a fence, if you are an SE lead. But I think I have not been afraid to be, in physical situations, like in terms of the sports and games growing up. I've kind of enjoyed it. I used to wrestle with some boys, and I always enjoyed playing ball games. And I wouldn't mind, if you get close and if it gets a little bit messy and physical and punchy, that's kind of funny and enjoyable. How do you relate to that? Just jumping a little bit, but still in the body topic.
Yes, well, that's one of the interesting things I remember hearing when you were, I think it was perhaps in your typing video, that you seem in your adult ages to be a lot more athletically engaged. Like I did athletics in high school, but more or less after high school, I had left that behind as a part of my life, other than a pickup game of volleyball here or there. So am I remembering right? I remember you did
yeah, I enjoyed whenever I can. I mean, I'd love to, like, ideally to do it like once or twice a week, like maybe some sort of team sports, but it's kind of hard logistically. But yeah, I do different things, like physical things, every week. Now I'm mostly going going to the gym. I'm not really that good at exercising yet, but I'm going there twice a week, and I play badminton. Yeah, I enjoy canoeing in the summertime. So I kind of like to use my body, but when I really, really thrive, it's when it's when balls, when it's ball games, when those things, like, yeah, soccer or basically any ball game, like ping pong, just not volleyball. I don't know why. I think it's a feminine sensory thing. I don't know. I never enjoyed that. Yeah, I basically enjoy all the other ones. And I feel like my body gets this high from doing that. Like when these team sports, when we get together, friends and so forth, it's like, yeah, I love it. That's when I guess I'm sort of tapping into my body more than, at least I enjoy it. It feels very natural.
It sounds like you are more so than I am. I mean, I'm working to be responsible with this sort of thing as well. Like, much more regular exercise and weightlifting and that sort of thing. That's been a lot more, but the enjoyment comes when I'm partway through it. I'm not itching to go do it. Usually it's not something I'm like, oh, I just gotta gotta get that out there and lift some weights, but I think going
No,
partway through. Yeah.
but is it different for you? I mean, we are both DE saviors, so is it different if other people are involved somehow for you?
Oh, because we were doing this comparison not too long ago. I remember this, that it seems like you are drawn to the team sports much more.
Oh yeah.
And at least at this time in life, when I'm just craving time to sleep process, I enjoy anything that's more of an individual
Yeah.
activity where there's not a lot, even if there's someone else involved in it, there's not a lot of back and forth happening. I like, as far as like mm, in a talking way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree on that one. I don't want to talk. I want to, do the thing. That's what I want to
Yeah.
go and do. So the talking will be like pass the ball or something like that, but not more than that, not like interacting with the tribe too much.
Yeah.
Just seeing
But
them is
the
enough.
awareness, because I would guess that you experience this too. Just anytime another human is present within your vicinity,
Mm-hmm.
there's awareness that's devoted to them.
Yeah,
And
in a way. But that's the thing with the masculine sensory. I don't know, like my little demon there, which I'm peacocking so much right now. But I think when I tap into it, that kind of triumphs my feminine FE because I'm not very considerate. Like, then I'm
oh,
actually in
nice.
for the win,
Yeah,
So I don't
that's so
know.
funny.
Yeah. The masculine sometimes seem to override even the feminine human needs because they're just so peacocky and strong. I mean, they wouldn't last every day, from 9 to 5, but on those occasions they
Yeah.
do thrive and they
Yeah.
like it. So yeah.
I'm trying to even remember how we got on this subject, but I guess that was the point. We were going to do play style anyway. So
Yeah,
like,
this
where
is
did this
going to be
go?
chaotic. We planned for the chaos.
We did plan for it.
Yeah, we didn't plan for your child though, crying in the background.
No.
But we managed that too. Well, I think the body awareness thing, yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know what else to say more than I am more trying to tap into like just, yeah, just feeling my body more, just acknowledging that it's there, like doing some stretching, just moving it a little bit, even when I don't have to because of some reason.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's funny. We are a bit crazy, the intuitives. Even to
Yeah,
have to talk about this, like, yeah, right.
I know.
So obvious things.
It is one of those like, oh, you just learned how to tie your shoes, did you?
Yeah, that's the feeling.
I know. I made great discovery.
Yeah, it's so funny with the demons. Yeah, let's jump to your playlist. It's related to the infodom thing, but I was talking with some friends about it today, and basically the message or the consensus, the conclusion, I would say, was that playlists, they play and then they disappear and they're gone for a long time. And that's how we see it from the outside. But how do you experience it from the inside, being a playlist?
No, yeah, it's exactly that way. Because I would say I have awareness of when I'm disappearing from people.
Mm-hmm.
At least mild amount of awareness. I'm aware that it's happening, and I um I'm not always aware of the agitation that's growing at the disappearing, but can guess that agitation is growing. So,
And I
yeah, I can guess it
FE.
probably is there. Yeah, especially, where I feel bad about it is like I'll say have like some messaging conversation with someone, and when I'm in that mode, I'm engaged and there's a lot of back and forth, and then I may hit some point where I am not responding to a message, and like then time goes on, and the longer time goes on, the worse I feel about like finally responding to that message. And then so there are some times where I eventually give up because I feel too embarrassed to go back and respond to that message. So that's where that will happen. And I wouldn't be surprised that there are people that interact with me in that way that just eventually gave up because they're like, it's nice talking to her while it lasts, but then it's frustrating when she just drops off the face of the earth. And so I wouldn't be surprised that some people they're like, yeah, I don't want to spend my time that way. So,
I think
so
actually, I think I'm just thinking about it because I've had like interactions with Playlast. My sister is one of them for sure.
okay.
I'm pretty convinced, at least. I think it often the infodoms are able to communicate enough, like I am doing this or I am busy. Like you somehow feel that it's not really personal, you know? You feel that they have something else going on they need to attend to, you know? And so I think the tribe is more okay with that than when someone is lasting. I think that can be worse because then they are there around in the tribe, but they are not giving any information about anything, what's going on, why are they suddenly so quiet or and almost invisible, but not totally invisible, you know? And I think there are more question marks, like the playlists are just, oh yeah, they are gone. Oh, she did that thing again. But with the blast last, it's kind of, they come and go, they are there somewhere, and then they disappear, and then they show up, and they are not saying anything. But the playlists are more when they are, you know, popping up every once in a while, like a submarine, they actually communicate. And you get a sense of, yeah, this is how it works for this person, you know? You're still communicating. I think that's the difference between those last extroverted animals, like how they are experienced maybe from the outside. I guess it can, yeah.
I'm just with that. That's fascinating to me. Well, so one thing I want to ask you about in light of this is, you know, I've really, really valued Catherine and Uzair and Ikram's talking about this.
Me too.
Some of the stuff I was tracking as well, but they put into words things that I'm like, yeah, that'd be right. So so the differences between info and dom and energy dom, I agree with this from the info dom perspective, especially the way that it comes out for the playlist info dom is a lack of giving the sleep story, a lack of sharing the sleep story with the tribe. So it's interesting. So I'm then now trying to think of the nuances that might be happening with the blast last. What is their lack of, it's a lack of delivering the information the other person needs in order to know how
to interact, basically, because the other person on the outside is left to guess, you know.
Yes.
And of course that depends on how good the other person is at guessing, you know. So it works well sometimes and sometimes not so well. But yeah, I can see that, for example, my own mom, she's a blast and yeah, I'm convinced, but she's not yet type. But certain things I think is easier to see when you know people. And there's just this huge void of communication. You have no idea what she's doing, where she went, when she's coming back. There is no information, you know. And even if you are in the same house at the same time, but what's going on, like on the inside, what's she planning? Like, how does that possibly involve me if I'm in the same house at the same time? I have no clue, you know, until it's actually happening, because now it's time to blast, because now it's actually happening. Like, no, because I need to plan. The tribe needs to plan, you know. So yeah, that's interesting. It's like,
well, I'm thinking with all that you're describing, that those characteristics are going to be a much harder for a lead blaster with OI and DE human needs to be dealing with than someone who is also OE and DI, because
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the DE being like, I have to consider what is going on with you to figure out what I need to be about. You know, all the people here in my tribe and my immediate responsibility, I need to take them into consideration to figure out what to do, what I'm doing, to make my own decisions for myself.
Yeah.
If you don't have that information, how do you do that? And then also the pivoting quickly, with being given information and then pivoting quickly is going to be much easier usually for an OE than an OI to deal with.
Exactly.
So I think, yeah, for those of us lead blasters, we may have the hardest time dealing with that. Like,
it's a struggle, even if we have, like, our saviors are pretty good at, you know, tracking patterns and knowing what's going on in the tribe, but it's still hard because we still have this OI human needs for ourselves. So we still need some sort of predictability, some sort of plan. And because we aren't that quick at adjusting in the SC world. So that brings a lot of stress on us if we don't get to do that planning, so we can kind of rest after or relax after. Yeah.
I'm curious, so Alexa, how do you relate to the shorter intervals between doing your sleep and then sharing your sleep with the tribe? Like, updating the identity and then sharing the updated identity with the tribe. Where do you see your intervals? Does it seem like it's shorter than others, longer than others?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the concept of identity as well here. So updating of the identity, as I see it, like, this is interesting. What is sleep really doing? And I think it's different depending on the other animals in the stack. So our sleep is both NT, and so maybe by default you would think they are doing the exact same thing. But I think if it's positioned in a certain place, it's doing a slightly different action. And also it's serving slightly different purposes depending on what animals they are surrounded by. So, yeah, I feel at times I have been bypassing my sleep. So I can actually do that. I can connect my blast to my play in emergency, you know, in cases of an emergency. And of course, I will have to pay a price later with my sleep because I ignored my savior. But I kind of can connect to my play if I want to, or if I have to. But the normal process would be that I want to share something or be helpful somehow, you know, do my blast. And then I ran out of, you know, adequate information, or, you know, that is applicable in this situation. Then I will have to go to my sleep if that's possible, given the circumstances. And I have to try and figure things out, like, how can I make this work with my anti-sleep? Maybe I can't do it because there is no time to do it. Then I have to bypass it and I have to go to play and try to figure it out together with someone else, you know, doing the pinging, and then back up to blast. Yeah, but I think since it's, as we said before, like, or I said, extroverted, introverted, for me, the animals are every second, and it's not really a black hole. So I get out of my sleep pretty fast and I go back to blast.
Okay.
Then I have to go back to sleep again when I have blasted for a while, like, okay, yeah, but is this really true? Is this really helpful? Is this really working? Okay, let's go back and check in the sleep. And so how I see my sleep is a lot about figuring things out, yes, based of my own logic, of my own, you know, whatever pattern recognition I've been doing during my life, but it's still to serve the tribe. So how that is connected to identity, I'm not sure. I'm suspecting that my consume is even more connected to my identity, but I'm not sure. So now I'm just doing this random blast that I haven't processed. Maybe I will go back on this later, but I'm not sure. I feel like my sleep is serving, a lot of it is serving the tribe, is serving my blast, the things I am doing. But it's still things within my, you know, areas of interest. It's in my OI, and it's in what is important to me, my DI. So I'm figuring things out that I am interested in. So in that way, it's serving me, you know, it's for me. And that's part of my identity, I guess, being that. But it's still, when it is processed, I will use it for my blast. That's how I see it right now.
Okay. So.
But
The
again,
nuance of this
I'm
are
not
so interesting.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure about, you know, the information. I'm just blasting it out there like goofy energydom, but yeah.
Well, I wonder if even this is an interesting example of how this will work, because I'm just now learning it's important to do what you're doing. I mean, in a sense, because it makes sense. Your play is higher than mine. And so the talking things out in the open before you've really figured them out seems to be more of a comfort for you than it is for me. And I'm working to do this, telling myself it's important to do that, because it's a way of getting out. Well, I'll just tell you, like, the way that my default state is to, once I come across new information, I retreat to put it into order. And the problem is I might be retreating for a long time before I'm ready to come out and share what I put into order. And a lot of changes, I think this is the reason why I'm asking about the intervals and identity shifts, is that there can be pretty big shifts happening in there as I'm putting things in order comparatively to someone that's putting out little bits there, and then getting I think of it as just allowing the tribe to adjust to those identity shifts little bits at a time. Because I think that at least I don't understand the process as well for the sleep last, but for the play last, you can have big identity shifts in between the going out to share, and that can end up being more shocking for the tribe to deal with. Like, whoa, what is this difference that you seem like you've really built on it. It's not, this does not seem like it's
yeah, you have kind of
a very open for
secretly,
discussion kind of thing. Yeah, it's like secretly, because
yes.
the fear. So I'll tell you where that comes from for me. It might be different for, like, say, an IP or something like that, but where it comes from for me is I do have this responsibility to be consistent. I feel this now. I'm learning to be messy, but my responsibility tells me being messy and being I use it's a derogatory term I use for it, which is flaky. That's how I look at it, as being flaky. So when you come out and you report something about yourself, and then a few weeks later you're reporting something quite different about yourself, this to me is flaky, and I feel responsible to be reliable. Like, what I'm reporting about myself, you can rely on it. And then the next time you can rely on it, which is actually ends up being kind of ironic in that because there are these big shifts, people don't actually know how to rely on it, because there's like, that was a big change here. And yet what the purpose of holding back sharing any of those identity shifts is because I want to make sure that I've got the right one before I'm reporting it. I want to make sure that what I'm saying about this is my updated identity, that I'm like not wavering on it anymore. I'm not going to go, change it in 2 weeks. That
Mm.
and so a lot until I feel solid on it, and maybe this is because that's a double masculine animal for me. Until I feel solid on it, I don't want to report it. But coming to learn how, like, that's it comes from a place of wanting to do everyone a favor by not being flaky, and yet
Mm.
it actually can end up backfiring. And so the responsibility that I've been learning to cultivate more recently is being messy with other people, like uh, letting go of the ego that I have around being reliable in who I say that I am, and being like, yeah, I might be flaky and I might tell you something about myself today and I might be different a month from
Mm.
now, and that's okay. So
Yeah.
it seems like
Wow.
the energy doms have maybe they just have a little more of a grasp of that. And I think actually the sleep class seem to, I mean, there's a little bit different because their process is very messy out loud. It's messy out loud, but where it seems like what's not happening is the real building on all of the processing that they've been doing out there to really
Mm.
be solid on it. And
Mm.
so that it's like it can be a similar outcome, just we're just very different ways of doing it,
Yeah, it's like the opposite action, but leading to kind of the same result or a similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yes.
for the energy doms, I mean, this is where it's interesting because even as you're sitting there and you're talking things out, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, and I'm
Mhm.
thinking, oh wow, I'm learning to do that now because that process is messy to me. It's being
Yeah.
in front of other people. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like just say what you're thinking and let's take it from there. It's almost like play, I think, in a way, the energy dom
Yes.
nature.
Well, it seems like what it is it's the sleep and the play together, where you're bringing out your what you are currently building on, and maybe you've only been building on it for 5 seconds,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
well, I mean, you're everything you're pulling up, you're pulling from stuff that you've known, I'm
Mm.
guessing, or
Yeah. Yeah.
close.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have built on it. But
Mm.
you're also giving yourself more room for openness of maybe it's this, and it's okay to just throw some things out there for discussion and adjust as
Mm.
we go. Then I don't then figure it all out myself and then deliver.
Yeah. Because I'm not responsible for the information to the same level as you are. I can feel that. Yeah. Like it's
Mhm.
okay to explore this together. Let's find out. Like, I don't know and you don't know, but we can find out together, maybe. Or if we don't, it doesn't matter. It's okay too, because we are vibing and having a good time, you know.
Yeah,
That's how it
yeah.
works.
I'm just learning how to do this. I'm learning the importance of it, that it does everyone a favor, you know.
Mm, yeah, I guess. I mean, info is good too, you know, when it's important information. Not all information is important. At least I don't think so. I'm not sure. But anyways, I think there is more important information. And that's where our void is. Like we miss some important stuff sometimes. And yeah, and what is all this vibing good for if we miss on the important, crucial parts of information, you know? Then suddenly maybe relationship crashes anyways, even if you had a super nice vibe, because you missed an important piece of information. So yeah, you need both. And I guess it's basically the same as, you know, if you're a single observer, you should try and become more double observery, and vice versa with the deciders. And that should be similar to the energy versus info dom as well.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I need to respect it more. So yeah, how can we do that? How can you be more balanced with play and sleep, and how can I be more balanced with blast and consume? Maybe that's a final question.
Yes.
Let's
Well,
process
I want
live.
to hear, yes, let's process live about how, well, part of this, I mean, uh, how I can be more responsible with play and sleep is this new muscle that I'm exercising of throwing stuff out little bits at a time, even when it's uncertain. I don't know if that's where I will finally land.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I will permanently build on that or not, but allowing the information to be put out there, so that my little identity updates can be, it's almost like leaving breadcrumbs for people to be able to follow how you got from one point to another.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry for interrupting you.
No, if you have something to say about that.
Yeah. It's so true, because I think that's what you were talking about before, to the discrepancy, kind of like the big leaps between then and now. Like what you're saying, leaving the breadcrumbs. I'm just repeating what you said, but I'm just kind of understanding it as I'm repeating it back. Like that's exactly what is the problem, I think, that energy DOMs experience with info DOMs, because since the breadcrumbs aren't there, it becomes very suspicious. You don't feel that there is this consistency, in the patterns of the identity, like self and tribe vibe thing. It's something is missing,
Yeah, which is again, it's ironic, because my main reason for doing that is to be consistent.
Yes, it's
So,
super ironic. It couldn't be more ironic.
The information is to be consistent.
It's crazy. Yeah, this is so interesting. Like, wow, this is a different interview, because I'm just having so many realizations. That is so true. So it has the opposite effect, what you're doing.
Yeah.
It couldn't be
And
more ironic.
once I got that, I was like, oh, then this is, I'm continually shooting myself in the foot by doing that. So it helps knowing that I'm doing the opposite of what my intention is, or like the result is the opposite of my intention. It helps to shift that practice in me. So
yeah, to me, of course, NF, I have to pull in an analogy here, but if you're sewing like clothes, and instead of you're making these thousands of little seams, like leaving the breadcrumbs, kind of, you just make like a couple of knots here and there, like the proper nice good ones, and the energy domes are like, no, that doesn't look right.
That's so funny. That is a really funny analogy. That's going to stick with me, because it's so out there for me.
Yeah, I wonder how we are shooting ourselves in the foot. Can you tell me that too? Like energy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the consume last. I have a relative that I feel pretty certain is consume last, and so yeah, I mean, that's such a big subject. My husband is blast last, so I know the energy dom other side too, and it is the not having the balance of the information being swapped back and forth. There's a lot that can be missing there in understanding what's happening, and there's a lot that goes missing. So, and I don't know if this plays out with everyone, but it seems like I have had some experience with energy doms where it seems like the purpose of a response is read as meaning something different than an infodom is meaning in it. The infodom really looking for clarity. Let's swap the information back and forward until we get understanding of if we're talking about the same thing, if our information is lining up or not. And that seems, it seems to me like it can be received differently from an energy dom in a way that it's like, yeah. Do you experience this? I'm curious how it feels on the inside for you.
Yeah, let me deflect, since I'm DE here. So I just heard an energy dom say something about that. It was so funny, because she's energy dom and she was talking to someone who was info dom, and they are not close or anything, and she was like, I'm so annoyed with this guy, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting, like how come? And she's, yeah, because all he wants to do is talk. And I'm like, you're not doing anything, you're just talking. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it feels. Like aren't we done talking already? Aren't we going to get started? While the poor info dom is trying to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So once we get started and we all have the same information, it will be really efficient.
Right.
I get that, but the feeling from the energy dom perspective is like, well, if we get started, we will find out, you know.
Yeah.
That's more like trial and error. And I don't think info doms are into that very much. So, but that's how the energy dom goes
Oh.
by, you know, finding out things by trying them, you know, even
And
if you
maybe if
are.
you're in a dynamic with another energy dom, that
Mhm.
works okay. Although
Yeah.
it does seem like energy doms together can end up with huge amounts of missing information between the two of them.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
it can.
like how do you guys get on like thinking that you're on the same pathway and you like you're getting more and more divergent as time goes on
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
matching up your information. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of me and my little sister. We were planning on making some changes, helping our mom with some, you know, changes in her house. And so we had bought a table that was, you know, everything was planned. It was perfect. It was going to be in a corner. And we had planned that whole corner, what it would look like and all, you know, blah, 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 sensory. And then when the table arrived and we unpacked it, and we realized, because I had ordered it, that is why we realized it once we were opening it. Because if it would have been my sister, we would have known before, you know, everything. So I open it and I see this is not a typical, you know, IKEA piece of furniture. It was a random something from the internet, you know, consume last, something I found quickly,
Mhm.
and not infodom. So, and it was a really good piece of furniture, just that it was really difficult to put together.
Mm.
And we're both not ST saviors.
Mhm.
So we were going to do this together. And this is how I discovered she's an infodom. Like, she really wants to be sure how this works, how are we going to do it, read the manual, blah, 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 discuss it back and forth. And I'm like, the pieces are here. Let's get started. And if we get stuck, then we can check the manual. You know, the procedure was the complete opposite. And we ended up, you know, there was some tension, and we kind
Sure.
of ended up deciding that one of us had to be in charge and just take the lead and also take the consequences, you know.
Which direction did you go? Did you go with your method or hers?
So I'm the older sister in this case. So then we went with my method for a while. It didn't
Was
really
it,
work
was it
very
until
well.
you hit a spot where you realized, oh, we built all this and we missed an important step and we have to take it all apart now to fix
I'm so glad I have NI, because I actually saw that coming and I was like, oh, or maybe we should do it your way. So it ended very well. But yeah, it took a few hours to build that thing together. And yeah, it looked
Yeah.
nice in the end. Everything was good. Mom was happy. But yeah, it was exhausting for both of us.
Yeah, I bet.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's something that gets missed with the energy DOMs is for info DOMs, something is being done in the
Mhm.
swapping of the information. Whereas it
Yes.
seems that to energy DOMs, it doesn't, that's not what, nothing's happening here. There's no movement taking place. But
Yeah.
for
Where is the
info,
action? That's the
there is
feeling.
actual movement taking place by swapping the information. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
That's a big way of missing each other, for sure.
a big way of, sorry.
Missing each other,
Yeah,
where you can miss each other. Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%. And I was thinking of what you said about infodoms um, being so cautious about the information before they share it and perfecting it to the point that you're not sharing it in time, and then people get suspicious and all this because you are not leaving the breadcrumbs. So where we do that as energy doms, I think, is that we're trying to save energy. So we are not communicating enough, which ends up being like a major misunderstanding in the end of things. And it takes much more energy to resolve that crisis than
Mhm.
it would have been, you know, taking just leaving the breadcrumbs along the way and communicating as we go, and during the process. So I think that's our corresponding, experience.
Yeah. It sounds like it's well, at least it sounds like for the playlist, and then for the energydoms, it's essentially a communication breakdown. Well, for the sleep last, because the what I was describing of the withholding the information, that seems like the uniquely playlist way of doing the infodom life. But the sleep last, well, that's more of like it's lacking the communication with the self is what's going on there.
Right. Yeah. It's
So
yeah.
it's all communication. If we just want to put it in an NI nugget there, it's all communication issues.
Communicating with self or with tribe. One of them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything else you'd like to, bring up as we have these? Yeah, we have talked about info energy. We have talked a little bit about masculine NI versus feminine, but not that much. Is there something else we could talk about? Because also another thing that I felt when I was typed an INFJ, which was like, I have never thought, the thought has never crossed my mind that I could be an INFJ. Like, no, that's, yeah, it didn't exist. And I think that one of the reasons for me was that I have only observed masculine NI until I was typed myself. And I couldn't relate to masculine NI. And I think it's pretty different, feminine and masculine NI. And after a while, when I actually got to observe a couple of feminine NI users, then I was like, oh, now I see. Now I can relate.
Yeah.
So it was a huge difference for me. And yeah, so how have you seen the differences between masculine versus feminine NI? Like, how do you?
I'm really still trying to get a grasp over feminine NI. It still seems like a mystery to me.
It's hard to grasp, right?
Yeah, it is hard to grasp. But I mean, the best I understand it is just that, like, as water is flowing down the mountain, it's going to move around the boulders. That's what it will do. So yeah, so I think that
yeah, because the end goal will basically be, it's not fixed. I would say that, at least the way I feel, is that I have a direction, but it could end up like in 2 or 3 different places. It's not like one single goal, but it's in the realm of that same goal, but the directions can be a little bit different.
A little different. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does feel different for me. And that is a place where I will get stuck. I really will get stuck, is if the direction, there's just one direction, one pathway. But then having an awareness, even if you don't know what the obstacles are, but that there will be a lot of obstacles on that pathway, then it seems like, well, then now what? Because that's still the pathway. How do I still get there instead of adjusting? And that's something I've been waking up to more recently, is how much that the masculine and it will just be set on a pathway and not reconsider the pathway, not reconsider whether it should be on that pathway. And for a long time. And so yeah, if I understand right, it seems like the feminine eyes is a bit different. Well, it sounds like you're describing that too, that it doesn't have to be just the one, but
it's
so then
it's
is
one.
it circumstances and the sensory then that's determining which one of those pathways, or do you even see it as a different pathway?
Yeah, so for me, it's not really different. It's just different roads leading to a similar goal, not the exact same goal. But it's just like, it's still a straight line, but it's just that there are like 2 or 3 parallel lines if you
Okay.
compare it maybe to OE, then the lines would go in every direction. There are many possible directions, many possible goals. That's not how it feels. You still have, like they say, Dave and Shan, like you have a way, but it's not as fixed. But it will still be a crisis if I would have to change it, totally, like from one concept to a totally different concept. Then that would be a crisis for me. And, in terms of my identity, because then I would have to update all of it, my entire self, because everything is centered around this way that I have in my life. And yeah, I guess that's where the crashes come, for us who have OI as a savior, when life doesn't align with our OI, so to speak.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's when it gets really messy and difficult for us. And when we break, in a way.
Yes. Yeah. I'm trying to think of, because this is reminding me, Dave and Shan, sometime in the not too distant past, we're talking about how like the void that the last function leaves versus the void that the last animal leaves, and how they interplay with each other. And so like for both you and I, we have that blind spot of new sensory, new data coming in to inform the vision that we have. We have that blind spot, but mine probably is coming more from a lack of back and forth with other people that help inform me with that, and yours maybe coming from a lack of well, there's like it's the identity piece that's attached to it for you. It's like, so there's a gathering from the tribe versus a building for yourself kind of thing. It's what it seems like.
Yeah. And I think also another thing when the SE is so low, is that you can narrow in on the wrong OI too early, because you haven't really done the proper gathering.
Yes.
And you will try and force it in that direction anyways. You will resist doing the rest of the gathering that you actually should do to complete it, and then narrow it down to a more perfected OI, which also needs to be updated along the way.
Yeah.
So the problem is when we don't, and we lock onto something too early, too fast, and then we spend all of our energy on that one OI that is not even, properly researched, so to speak, which is so, yeah, I don't even find words for it in any language. I think it's just a feeling.
So is that something, now that you have this awareness that this is a tendency that you have to lock in too early, is that informing your process of gather? Is it informing your process of not locking in, even if you have in mind the destination? Like what is it? Has it started to change for you since you've learned that?
Yeah, it started to change for sure, but I at this point I don't think it has changed for the better. It has just changed because I used to have a way, and I used to kind of know, and I used to focus. And now I feel, as I'm starting to respect the OE more, I feel like I'm even more stuck than I was before, because at least I had like one OI that I was working on. But now it's like, I don't want to get started, because what if it is the wrong OI? But also I don't want to gather, because it's still a demon.
Yeah.
So it's worse in a way.
I totally get what you're saying. Probably it's because we're just learning how to exercise this new muscle.
Yeah.
So, but I know for me, it's it's important for me to first be aware I'm locking in too early. So just like loosen up a little bit on the locking in, and that by just giving a little space around that that potential goal or destination, giving a little space, it seems to allow for more space in the allowing new information to flow in that can inform. So
Yeah.
and perhaps that will, it seems to me like it's still more of an not a very conscious process but it's by giving room that's not locked in yet. There is some space for new information to flow. And I think with that space, that muscle can grow more, grow stronger to where there's actually consciousness around the knowing how to go get information that will inform and refine the vision.
Yeah. Yeah, because you will still try and do that stupid, fast narrowing in, like it's just there. It's the control factor. It's still there. But it's like, have you seen the movie A Beautiful Mind? The mathematician, and he's schizophrenic and he sees people that aren't really real. And he realizes with time that this little 8-year-old girl, she's still 8, even if 20 years have passed, in real time. So finally he understands that even if he can see them, they are not real. And that's how I see my OI these days. Like I still feel that, OI control, wanting to steer the wheel, the direction of things in my life. But I know also it's like this 8-year-old girl, the answer isn't there. It's real. It feels real.
Yeah.
But it's just my savior, it's my schizophrenia, so to speak.
Right.
And now that I am aware of it, it's still there. I mean, even if he was medicated, he could still see these people, but he just kept them at a distance. Like he didn't communicate with them. He didn't interact with them, And that's the way I feel. Like I need to just acknowledge that it's there. I still feel like the drive, the intense drive of it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to start believing that it's real, like I did before, being unaware of, the savior demon thing that we have going on in us. Like it's a program. It's fine. It's a program. It's okay because that's how I was programmed. I can feel that way. No problem. Yeah. But I can't let it steer the wheel. That's, the thing. And that's a daily struggle.
Yeah.
And still as I am resisting taking in the new, because that's the hard part. And as you say, we have to strengthen that muscle. So I just am at that first step, that first awareness phase, and kind of just trying to do the mindfulness thing. Okay, it's there. I feel it. I want to act on it. And let the feelings just go through my body. And there we connect the body awareness with the whole thing here. And just breathe, accept, ignore, move on, next step. And then it will come again, like so many times during a day. Yeah.
Yes, keep coming back. It sounds like for us, what the process we are both going through is going from the unconscious incompetence to the conscious incompetence, which it does feel like it getting worse because you're conscious of something you're incompetent.
Now I know I'm horrible. That feels
now
even more horrible.
I know that it actually is. It is progress.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of, did you see, it was some months ago, someone had posted the figure in one of the OP groups of it's an XY axis, and the top, it says how people think that, what people think growth looks like, and it's a straight up into the right line. And then it says how growth actually looks or something like that. And the line, it goes in cursive, FU. See, it goes up.
Yeah.
So it's on all of these little curves, twists and turns. And it is like, I mean, that doesn't describe my life. I don't know what does, where like growth, it looks worse before it gets better. And it can look like that in other people's lives. Like, this really seems like a step backwards for you. What's happening with you? But that it's all a part of the process of actually getting to that place. And they are getting there. It just is going all around as they head there.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about this new kind of awareness, because and there are many ways where it just feels like this is taking steps backwards.
Yeah. Like, let's go back
yeah,
to unawareness, but that's
there's
not
the
even
power to choose in this state that I did not have the power to choose in that state, because I was just going off of my default programming.
Yeah. And that is the difference,
Mm-hmm.
having that power, because, yeah. But then also you need to, I mean, it's not enough that you want to do something and you want to improve yourself, you want to get better. But then you tend to forget, in the heat of the moment, you let your saviors drive again. But it's kind of, failing is not about not falling, this cliche, but you fall 7 times and you get up 8 times, So it's the only failure is if you don't keep on, if you don't keep going and keep trying again. And I guess that's the hard part, being patient with oneself. As a DE, you can be patient with everyone else but yourself. At least I feel that. So that's the hard part.
It is the hard part.
Self-compassion.
But it's so rewarding. I mean, I think that's hard when these changes just happen in small little bits. It's really hard. It can be hard. So it just takes a lot of faith that like this is going somewhere, and I am building on something, even though it's just tiny, tiny little steps at one time.
Yeah.
But then you can have some distance like I do, or that thankfully have the feedback from other people, like my therapist that's reflecting on over a year's work, and just her telling me what's built, that in the moment or in the process, it can be hard to see that there's actually been progress made. So
yeah, because even if you are taking 1 step forward and 2 steps backwards, but you still did the movement, you still did the exercise, you are reprogramming your brain little by little. So it's still there, and you are building some muscles for every time you move, even if you don't feel it at once.
yeah.
So,
and I think for those of us with NI, part of the process of those different, it's like it's that OE, just trying. It's a new, something new. And is it this pathway? Is it this pathway? Is it this pathway? Oh no, it wasn't. Got to go back. But all of that is a part of the process, and it's informing when we actually find, oh, we do keep going on this pathway longer. And we can actually do it in integrity with who we want to be, rather than it just being our programming saying you must. You saw the first option and you picked it and you ran with it.
Yeah.
So now everything needs to go in that direction.
Yeah, just building on the wrong piece from the beginning.
Yeah, and isn't that just like, gosh, because we can be such good builders, but when you just realize so it's, I mean, just experiencing pain from doing that, then it's a huge motivator to be like, no, I really do want to loosen up and make sure what I'm building is something that is really has true sustainability, not just because I'm trying to force everything into it, but because on its own it is sustainable.
Yes. And the funny thing is, or the interesting part is that when we do that, when we let it happen, we kind of get into a flow where we are more in tune with, I guess, our whole selves, and things start to work more naturally. Have you felt that?
Yeah. Well, that's part of the information I'm getting from my body that I wasn't listening to before. It's like, oh, my body is actually speaking to me about this. So
Yeah,
I'm, making my decisions I'm getting some of the information from here. It's telling me what's right for me.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I have a lot to process after this.
Me too.
Yeah,
We
we'll
will
not
take
talk for
together
years
and
now.
now we can go back and process for a long time.